the study of Torah. So, okay. The last time we looked at David, it was in relationship to his first wife, Michal, King Saul's daughter, if you recall. And he married her, and then she loved him. It tells us that she loved him. It never really says that he loved her. And that when her father, King Saul, again decided to kill her because he was paranoid and mentally ill, she had him jump out the window, if you recall, and she took, and we had a discussion about this, an idol, that a teraphim in her house, and she put it under the bed so it looked like a person, and she covered it up, and they thought that he was in the bed. And then they discovered it was this idol. And there's no comment in the text about the fact that she had an idol. There's no comment. It's like taken for granted that people had them or women had them. We're not clear. The only two times that we hear it mentioned is in relationship to women. Rachel had one, Rachel, when she left her father's house, when they decided to return to the land of Canaan, when Jacob was going back, and his wife, Rachel, took the teraphim, or is one a teraph? Nina, would it be? Do you think? We don't know. It's called a teraphim. Maybe it's like Elohim. It's singular, but it's in a plural. Anyway, she took an idol with her. And then after her father discovered it missing, he ran after her,
Excuse me, the word teref is something negative, something that you shouldn't have.
I know, but
eat kosher, the word against kosher, it's trafim. So it's something that she shouldn't have in the house, she had in the house.
Okay, right. But they refer to the idol as a teraphim, right? That's interesting. It's from treif. That's so interesting. I never thought of that. That teraphim comes from treif, which we all know means unkosher or unclean or whatever. She took one, and then her father Lavan followed and said, somebody stole my idol. And Jacob said, impossible. If you find it, you can kill the person who has it. And they search, and when they get to Rachel, she's sitting on it. And her father comes up and she says, you'll excuse me if I don't get up. I have my period. That's in the text. And he says, oh, never mind. And they had horror of that.
The way of the women.
Exactly. So she got away with it, but that curse may have been what caused her to die in childbirth. We don't really know, but when she had her next child, and if it was a fertility god or goddess, that's very ironic. But, that's not in there, but we could look at that and wonder about that. And now the second time we talk about an idol, it's with Michal. And this is like 500 years later, 700 years later, that Michal has one in her house. And it's the two times we hear about them. So we could wonder if these were female goddesses, fertility goddesses, something to do with the household god in some way that was in the woman's domain. Anyway, that was the last story that we saw. And then he left. He never sent for her. She never heard from him again for years. And we're going to find out what he was doing. But in the meantime, finally, her father married her off to somebody else, a guy named Paltiel. This is what I'm just reviewing because we did this like a month ago or 5 weeks ago. Paltiel. And she seemed happy, with him. And then when later, more years pass, and then King Saul dies and King David becomes king. David finally becomes king. He says, well, I'll make a truce with Saul's generals who fought against him if you give me back Michal, my wife, because he needed her legitimacy. He needed the legitimacy of the princess. We see that in a lot of, actually we see it with, because I'm a big Tudor fan and have a lot of interest in the Tudor dynasty and all that Henry the Seventh, who was the first Tudor, married the daughter of the previous king, which was Edward IV. Even though they were enemies, he married her in order to legitimize his kingship. And so David did the same thing. And we read that Paltiel Michal's husband, who came after her crying, weeping, that they took away Michal, and then he's just told to shut up and go home. And then Michal basically is miserable for the rest of her life and dies childless. And we know she had terrible contempt, if you recall, with David, because when she sees him dancing when he's in Jerusalem, his genitals flare up and all the women are like in love with him, and she puts him down. It's so unseemly, it's so unkingly. And he said, I'd rather have all these maidens and prostitutes, cheering me on than you. And then she dies. It's so sad. It's a really sad story. So that was Michal. So now, but that's the whole story, but in order, in chronological order, it's David just jumped out the window and he's gone. So now we're going to look at David's character. He's such a complex character, and yet he has some kind of core of ethics or morals, because we're going to see how he had an opportunity to kill King Saul, who's sworn to kill him, and yet he doesn't. So that's what we're going to look at now. And then if we have time this week, you see him roaming the countryside kind of with a band of followers, extorting provisions from farmers and landowners. That's how he's living right now. He's a real renegade. And this is the young David that we never learn about, in Hebrew school or Sunday school or anything like that. So
say hi.
Hello, nice to see you. Okay, open it up. And where's everybody? Okay, I'm going to make this bigger. Is this because I know everybody likes it bigger? We'll just move it to. I had sent it to you as well, so I don't know if people have it. If you have it, you can look at your own. Hold on. Let me just move this up. And you see that Saul goes in and out. We saw him dancing wildly with the priests, with the ecstatics. And also what's interesting is they're constantly at war with the Philistines. Constantly at the war with the Philistines. Does anybody know where the Philistines? I know Pernina knows. But you won't be surprised to know, or you will, it's interesting to note. I'm going to do it like this so I can see everybody. Hold on. How can I do? Why doesn't this get bigger? Here we go. Yeah. The Philistines lived in Gaza. And we're still fighting people in Gaza.
Oh my God.
So they lived in Gaza. So they're constantly, the whole purpose, it seems, in the ancient world was constantly just trying to get land from other neighboring places, expand your power. And then they come back and they try to get it back. And then they want your land, back and forth, back and forth. It's just so repetitive. There's no peace. There's very little peace. So I don't know. All right. So
They settled in 6 cities, not one.
that's right.
4
6 cities on the coast, along the water. Thank you. You're absolutely right. Okay. So now they're on the hunt for David again. And let's look at what happened. Who would like to read?
I'd love to. We're reading.
Okay. Now it happened.
Okay. Now it happened when Saul had returned from following the Philistines that it was told him, saying, "Take no tell. David is in the wilderness of En Gedi." Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men from all Israel and went to seek David and his men on the rocks of the wild goats.
Okay, so take note. Our spies have told us that David is in the En Gedi, which is a place in Israel today. You can go and visit it. It's so amazing to read these texts and realize the exact same places are there. You can visit them. And when you visit them, if you're aware of this history, it even makes it more meaningful. So then Saul took 3,000 men from all of Israel, chosen men. So what do you think chosen men mean?
Levites?
Could be Levites, but they weren't fighters really. They were doing all the sacrifices and everything. What do you think chosen men might be?
The top soldiers.
Yeah, like the elite,
The
like
strongest, the
the
youngest.
Rangers, the top guys from all of Israel. So he meant business. I'm getting him. I'm killing him. Okay, a little more, Donna.
Okay, so he came to the sheepfold by the road where there was a cave, and Saul went to attend to his needs. David,
What does that mean? He went to attend his needs.
I had to use the bathroom. I don't know.
Bathroom.
Yeah, he went to the bathroom.
That's what I was thinking. They went to
And what was this is like a drama. This is like a action adventure story, because what's going on in that cave?
David and his men were there, but further back.
Okay,
Oh,
what do you read, Ruth? David and his men. What do you read?
We're all in that cave already, but obviously further along the cave in one of the.
Okay, so why don't you read, Ruth, from here?
Okay. David and his men were staying in the recesses of the cave. Then the men of David said to him, "This is the day of which the Lord said to you, behold, I will deliver your enemy into your hand, that you may do to him as it seems good to you."
So, it's so interesting. There are still people today that believe that everything that happens is ordained by God, or God has a hand in it. That nothing just happens, but it's all part of a plan. And they're saying, oh my God, this is a sign from God. We're in this cave, and who comes in to take a pee? The king, your enemy. He's vulnerable. His pants are down, or his cape is up, or cloak is up, toga is up, whatever he's wearing. Guess they don't wear pants. I don't know.
A robe.
Robe. But do they wear anything under the robe is the question. Oh, I don't know. And then you can do what you want. He's at your mercy. So what does David do? A little more, Ruth.
And
David
arose and secretly cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Now it happened afterwards that David's heart troubled him because he had cut Saul's robe. And he said to his men, "The Lord forbid that I should do anything to my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch out my hand against him, seeing he is anointed of the Lord." So David restrained his servants with these words and did not allow them to rise up against Saul. And Saul got up from the cave and went on his way.
Okay, so he was so close that the guy, maybe he had a long coat, or he took off his cape while he was doing whatever, that he was able to cut it off. And his heart troubled him because he was so close. So what does this sort of tell us about David, do you think? I mean,
and he has a conscience.
As a conscience, Penina? You're muted. You're muted.
If we are not forgetting that he's the one who came up to fight Goliath. So he wanted to show again, to remind them that he has the ability to save them. And yet he still he has some kind of loyalty to the king. And this is something that we have to always remember of past deeds. So we cannot always think of him as a man with no values.
I agree, but I think it's interesting that he says he is the anointed of the Lord.
Because he had the welfare of the people in his hands, and right now having a revolt against the king was not going to serve the people.
That's it. I think that's a very good point of view. I wonder though, if
I think he's stating it right there. It's an obligation to God. And I'm thinking on our prior show with Joseph saying, this is God's doing, it's God's way, and so on. And I think that shows some loyalty to God himself.
Loyalty to God, or I'm wondering it's also like a respect to the role of king, to the anointing, to the title. to the crown, like it's the crown. So you're honoring, if you've watched The Crown, there's the person and then there's the crown. And then there's the president, there's the person, and then there's the president, and there's the person, and then there's the leader who he said, how this is the crown, this is the anointed. God, I can't just kill him. I actually watched a very interesting, I'm watching this show, it doesn't matter, I'm streaming this show, where this patriarch has an enemy who's tried to kill him, but he can't just kill him. He says he throws him a gun and said, let's do it in a shootout and we'll see. In other words, in battle is one thing, but to just murder the king, regicide or whatever, David can't do it. It's murder as opposed to sort of a noble combat idea. And maybe he held up some kind of standard to them. Yes, Stacy, you're muted.
Okay, maybe this is obvious, but why did he cut off his robe?
We're going to see. You're going to see.
Okay.
We're going to do it. He's going to, we're going to see right now, why did he cut off a piece of his robe?
I have a question though.
Yeah.
At the last sentence, and Saul got up from the cave and went on his way. And then the next sentence says, and David said to Saul, so
No. And David arose.
Okay, I couldn't see it. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah. So, okay.
Much better.
Okay, Doris.
Yeah, someone asked about cutting the corner of the robe. Don't you usually cut a robe if someone is dying? Isn't that something that you tend to do? You cut off.
You don't cut, you rip.
You rip it. Yeah, you cut it. Yeah. Did that have anything?
That's interesting, but we'll see. He's going to exactly explain what he did. Pam, you're muted. Yeah.
I think he's just.
One second. It's Pam, and then I'll call on you. Go ahead.
Okay.
So I was thinking two things. First, it's sort of like when you're in the Secret Service or in a military role and the president that won the election isn't the one you voted for, right? So your loyalty is to the office of the president, maybe not to the individual. So I kind of feel like that's the significance of, hey, he's still this title, right? The role of it. But I also think that there's to me, you cut off the robe to say, I could have killed you, but I didn't.
That's what we're going to see.
I was just this close, but I spared you. So I think there's that. And then I also think, for my last and final thought, that so you've got that element, but then also remember that it's Saul who's chasing David. David is not chasing Saul. So it's not like David has this mission to go off and kill Saul. So I think there's a difference of saying, I don't know, somehow it's different. Like he's not the one chasing. He's defending himself.
Doris, mute yourself.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Anyway, sorry, but so those are my thoughts. It's just that I think there's a difference if you're the chaser or you're the defender.
Right. And don't forget, he's taken 3,000 men with the sole intention to kill David. And David's hiding. And then on the other hand, well, I want to hear what other people have to say. Merle.
So I think it's a lot like what Pamela just said. I think it's respect for whoever is the leader or whoever are the leaders. And by showing that you're not going to kill somebody or that you're going to, however you maintain that respect, that's how you're showing yourself in this particular case. You may not have approved of that person winning, so to speak, but you're showing your respect. Okay, I lost, but I'm going to behave.
Yeah, but what if that person who was elected is trying to kill you with 3,000 people?
Well, then you have to try and make your point. But I mean, I don't know how to explain what I mean. You have to make your point, but at the same time, you can't turn around and say, everybody, okay, we're going to go kill him. Or
okay. All right.
I think it's a request for mercy in a weird way. Like I've shown mercy and now reciprocate.
Okay.
Right.
Ruth, I think you're all actually right on, very close. Ruth.
I think there's more to it. I think David was the one that used to calm Saul. David knew that Saul was unstable and probably had mental issues, and I think he had compassion in the end. And so where he could have killed him, instead he just took the piece of the robe to prove that he had been there and that Saul was in fact in his grasp, but he didn't take it.
Okay, I like all of these. I'm going to call Penina in 1 second. I just want to add to this discussion. Do you think the fact that there were 3,000 men outside there of the cave had anything to do with it? Because even if he killed Saul, what was going to happen then? I mean, how many men of his were in the cave and how many of Saul's men were outside the cave? So that may have been another consideration, like, yeah, we can get away with this, but then what? Okay, Penina.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think divided people do not win wars.
Okay.
He needed the people to be together. In order, if they want to win this war, he couldn't start an inside war among him and his people and Saul's people. I'm repeating, divided nations do not win wars. That's it.
Oh, that's interesting, right? That it would just cause, well, they already kind of were divided, but I think this, all right, well, let's read what happens next. Okay, who wants to read? Susan Ehrlich, why don't you read? David also arose afterward.
And David, 9, is that it?
8.
Oh. David also arose afterward, went out of the cave, and called out to Saul, saying, "My lord the king." And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed down. And David said to Saul, "Why do you listen to the words of men who say, 'Indeed, David seeks your harm'? Look, this day your eyes have seen that the Lord delivered you today into my hand in the cave, and someone urged me to kill you. But my eye spared you. And I said, I will not stretch out my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed."
Okay, one more.
Moreover, my father, see, you see the corner of your robe in my hand? For in that I cut off the corner of your robe and did not kill you. No, and see that there is neither evil nor rebellion in my hand, and I have not sinned against you. Yet you hunt my life to take it. Let the Lord judge between you and me, and let the Lord avenge me on you, but my hand shall not be against you.
Wow, that's an amazing speech. So what do you think? How much do you think is sincere, and how much do you think, or do you think it's sincere, or do you think it's a cunning, a brilliant manipulation? And I don't have the answer.
Both.
Yeah. Risa, what do you think? You have no comment? Oh, yeah. Come on, Risa. No, you don't want to talk? Okay. Who has an opinion about that? Do you think he's sincere? It's beautiful. We can see how he could be a psalmist. We could see how beautiful his speech is. The way he talks about it is very persuasive. So do you think it's sincere, or do you think it's...
I do. I think it's sincere. You said before you thought David is very complex, so he has different sides of him. And I think this sounds sincere.
Yes, and he goes further. We're going to look in a minute, but does anybody else have any opinion one way or the other?
I have one thing to say. God
Lori.
sent me a midge like that.
Okay, Lori, you're muted.
Thank you, Lord.
For your little microphone.
Oh.
You're still muted.
Oh.
Oh, gosh.
Who are you trying to get to unmute?
She's trying to unmute, but she's
Who?
not.
Who?
Lori.
Okay, let me see if I can help.
Unmute her.
I'm trying to unmute.
Gracious Hannah.
Oh, darn. Unmute. Ask to unmute.
Yeah.
You're still muted. Did you push the little microphone? And you're still muted. Oh well, work on it.
while she's doing that, I think some of it could be both, because we know that David is also very wily or shrewd, and often knows what he's doing and how to manipulate. So I think it's beautiful. And
I think it's beautiful too. And it's like, and he says, my father, see. I mean, that's really, pulling on the heartstrings. He calls him my father, like my father, see, yes, see, yes, see the corner of your robe in my hand. I cut it off and I didn't kill you. Why are you trying to kill me? But I will never kill you. Okay, so now he even continues. So Cindy, why don't you read? How knowledgeable is David?
I'm sorry.
That's it, right, go ahead.
As the proverb of the ancients says, wickedness proceeds from the wicked, but my hand shall not be against you. After whom has the king of Israel come out? Whom do you pursue? A dead dog, a flea? Therefore, let the Lord be judge and judge between you and me, and see and plead my case, and deliver me out of your hand.
So I have a question, and I don't have the answer because I'm not looking at commentary. Is he referring to himself as a dead dog and as a flea? Is that what he's saying?
I think
Who am I that you should fight? I'm a flea. I'm nothing. Why do you perceive me as a threat? Do you think that's what he's saying there? Otherwise, I'm not sure what else.
I think so.
I think so.
I think so in a way.
Yeah.
I think sometimes in order to be persuasive, you have to be in a way, and it might be the wrong word, but you have to be in a way manipulative to get that person or that group to understand your philosophy.
Or to abase yourself to a point, you put yourself so low that the king doesn't perceive you as a threat.
Well,
Right.
you're asking, I think, and I don't agree with it necessarily, but you're part of that persuasiveness is asking this person, why do you see me as so low?
No, I think he's saying I am so low. Why would you chase me?
That
Why
could be.
are you trying to, why do you see me as a threat? Who are you coming to kill? A flea? I'm a flea compared to you. I'm nothing. Now that's really between the words my father and I'm a flea and a dead dog. I feel he's like very artful and wily, as Susan said, in the way he's presenting himself. It's like you just completely, though we know he doesn't think of himself as that at all. As Penina said, he killed Goliath. So, okay, Penina, you're muted.
The sentence that backs up my opinion is where it says, neither evil nor rebellion in my hand. It strengthened my point that he knows that now a rebellion is not the time to cause. Because again, I'm repeating, if you're not united and you have a rebellion among yourselves, you cannot win. So
I agree with you.
Yeah.
You're right. You're completely right, because he did say. So then, so now, okay. Now here's Saul's mental state. Okay. Oh, Lori, she tried to come back. So let's see if she can get her thing. So it was when David had finished speaking these words to Saul that Saul said, oh my God, is this your voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. Okay. So it's like, what does that mean? Is this your voice, my son David? What does that mean, do you think?
I think it means are these your true feelings?
Oh, I like that. Is this what you're saying? My son.
Why are you saying this way?
Well, he doesn't say why. It's like
but
he's amazed.
I think it's implied.
Implied because, well, read the next part, Merle. And then he said to David, 17.
Okay, I'm looking for it.
Here.
And then he said to David, you are more righteous than I. for you have rewarded me with good, whereas I have rewarded you with evil.
How did
And
you know
now,
that?
and you have shown this day how you have dealt well with me. For when the Lord delivered me into your hand, you did not kill me. For if a man finds his enemy, will he let him get away safely? Therefore, may the Lord reward you with good and for what you have done to me this day.
Wow. So
It's
he is
like-
saying, okay, so he's saying, is this what you're saying? Wow, you're more righteous than I. Who else said she is more righteous than I? Do you know in the Torah, Susan?
Judah of Tamar.
Exactly, with Judah and Tamar, where he was going to kill her. And she said, well, the person who got me pregnant, this is his staff and his seal, and it was him, and he'd never married her. And he said, she is more righteous than I. You are more righteous than I, for you've rewarded me with good, whereas I rewarded you with evil. So again, it's like David knew exactly what to say. And I agree. Who said that he had compassion because he knew he was mentally ill or he'd sung music to him, but he knows what to say to this very erratic, paranoid man to
Do you
turn
think
him.
do you think he's manipulated him to let him believe something that isn't so?
Yeah. Is he trying to overthrow the king? It doesn't seem so. I mean, he only was running around because Saul's always after him. So maybe he's trying to turn him. I think it's a double thing. I think he is trying to reassure Saul that he's not a threat, but I also think he knows the words that touch Saul's heart. You know what I mean? My father, and I'm a flea, I'm a dog, I'm nothing. I think, think about this in all kings who are capricious or the Caesars or whatever. You want to stay in their good graces. You don't want, and they think you're their enemy. So you have to constantly placate them. So I feel like he had to placate him and he knew how. And I'm not sure as Panina said, he has evil and rebellion in his heart right now because.
So do you think he's playing him?
So let me ask you, if you have a friend who is very touchy about things and you want to be still, or a relative is more to the point. There's some relatives that you have to you can't push their buttons or you can't do things. So you talk in a certain way to them. My own daughter, it's so interesting. Yesterday, she said to me, oh, I don't want to go back to work tomorrow. I wish I didn't have to go back to work. And I said, oh, it would be boring if you didn't work. And she said, thank you for telling me how to feel. Wow. It's like I have to watch what I say because she's right. And I say things that we say, and some people would just say, oh, maybe not, but she says, well, thank you for telling me how to feel. And I went okay, you're right. I'm sorry. Is it manipulative or is it careful or is it the right words or the wrong words? I mean, I think it's.
Well, you can't, people feel what they feel and you can't tell them not to feel that way. In other words, she said, I think she was just venting and saying, look, I don't want to go back to work, after being on vacation. And so.
I should have said, yeah, I understand.
Yeah. None of us want to go back to work.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But I'm saying in terms of Saul and David.
Right.
He doesn't want to be being chased all over the country. And he's not really interested right now in overthrowing the government. He never really does become king until Saul dies. He doesn't want to kill Saul. So he's trying to say words that will calm Saul down. And I mean, so he's saying, I'm not going to kill you. He said, that's not sincere. I will not kill you. I am not trying to kill you. The part that is playing him sort of is, I'm a flea, I'm a dog, I'm a nothing. Why do you think don't perceive me as a threat? I'm like a little flea on you. You don't have to be so fearful of me. And The subtext is, stop trying to kill me. Please stop trying to kill me.
David is asking for, give me a break.
Oh, Lori, you got your sound. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm okay with everybody else. I've nothing more to add. I'm glad I got my sound back.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Hi,
Pamela.
Lori.
Pamela. Wait, Pamela, and then Susan. Go ahead, Pamela.
All right, quick thought on sort of both your example, Susan, and also on the portion, which is that I was just talking to a friend of mine about the message, which are the words you speak, and the meta message, which is a Deborah Tannen sociolinguist concept, right? And the thing that's resonating is when Saul says, is this your voice? To me, it's almost asking, are your words in line, is the message in line with the meta message? Meaning, what we hear in the words and how we react to the meta message. So what he's saying is, yes, my message is the actual message. The message is the meta message. They are in line with each other. And to me, I think that's kind of a cool concept to put in here, because obviously Saul knows David's voice. He's not saying, is that you? He's saying, wait, really? So, and yeah, he is begging. I mean, the whole thing sounds merciful, right? He knew he would be dead by the soldiers in the army if he actually killed him, right? Because he was outnumbered. So that's a merciful thing. I showed you mercy. Now you show me mercy. And I'm not going to make you regret showing me mercy, right? Because there are times in history where we watch it in all the films, right? Someone gets to go and then later scenes, they end up killing that person off because they didn't kill them then or something like that, right? So to me, it's all part of the please have mercy on me, King, kind of messaging to me.
I love that idea of the meta message. It's also in your tone, in the way you look. If you look people in the eye, the fact that it said that he went down and bowed all the way down before he started talking, he completely, prostrated himself. So there's all of this information beyond the words. And you're right. When he says, is this your voice? It's like, is this your meta? Yeah, I see that. Wow. That's really interesting. Thank you. Susan.
Yes, I was going to add to this. When you said he's trying to calm Saul down, that resonated with me because that was David's function in the first place when he came to his whole raison d'etre, or his relationship with Saul was calming him down. And along with music, there is, as Pamela pointed out, a voice.
Hallelujah.
And so this oral, A-U-R-A-L,
right,
defensibility all comes into play, and comes into play with David's purpose or relationship with Saul here. So I think I think this speaks very well for David in this case, in that he has this ability, and as you said, he was a psalmist, and some of the psalms were sung as well. So I think this is kind of factored into this.
Yeah, I think you're right. Merle, and then Donna.
It seems like that the meta message that you're talking about, to me, seems like body language in whatever way it's coming across plays a big part in this.
Totally.
How you're observed from the other person or people.
And yeah, his tone, his body language, I'm a flea, I'm a dog, you don't have to be afraid. Yeah, absolutely. and his voice also was probably very compassionate or warm, or not aggressive, not defensive. We get so much beyond just the words. Donna.
It's like pleading sounding.
Yeah. Donna.
I was going to say, musically inclined people are emotionally connected to the community, and everybody loves to hear music. It calms you down. And David knew from his inside of his soul how to relate to Saul, and he had such respect and reverence for his being the anointed. He didn't want to touch him, and yeah, he's tired of running from him, so he's handling it the best way he can. And I think, God, send me a man like this.
Yes. Okay. Well, he's not very good to his women. Just remember that. Okay, now 20. Lori, why don't you read? And now I know.
And now I know indeed that you shall surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in your hand. Therefore,
This is Saul saying to me. Saul says to me, Saul saying to David, I know you're going to be the king. This is an incredible thing. Go on.
therefore swear now to me by the Lord that you will not cut off my descendants after me, and that you will not destroy my name from my father's house. So David swore to Saul, and Saul went home, but David and his men went up to the stronghold.
Okay, that's really interesting. And that gives me a new insight because I read this and then I don't study. I haven't read this part so deeply. Maybe that's why he wanted to marry Michal, get Michal back, because of this oath that, he wasn't going to cut off his children, because Jonathan ends up getting killed also in battle, that he's going to bring Michal back because of this oath.
Did he have any children with Michal?
No, they never had children because she hated him. I mean, he brought her home, but she just scorned him and despised him and put him down. And also, David, he said it for expedient, but he made a vow. Actually, I think he does kill another one of Saul's sons later. I'm pretty sure he does. So he swore to him. But then David and his men, whatever, I think they said there were 600 or 500 men, whatever the stronghold is, they go their way. They're living.
What are you doing?
I don't know. Oh, Penina. No, you're muted yourself.
Oh, he went back, but that doesn't mean that he took his people away. He left his army there with David, and he himself went home. It doesn't say that he took his people.
I think
again, I'm trying to come back to the same point. Here there is a thing, yes, there was a personal thing, but in the end, the welfare of the army itself, of the people themselves, Saul trusted everybody in the hands of David. So
they went to continue the fighting of the Philistines.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so the whole idea is that he left, he didn't take his people. They all stayed with David.
I would think that, except in the next chapter, it seems like he's traveling with a band of men. Now, he may have been taking his men and going to fight Philistines, or time could have passed. A lot of time could have passed because we don't know. But here's a really interesting sentence. And this is the beginning before we get into Abigail and everything. Then Samuel died, and the Israelites gathered together and lamented for him and buried him at his home in Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. Okay. So
look what's underlined, gathered together.
No, that's not underlined. That's just the printing of my.
Whatever, but it means a lot.
That's right. They all together. And this is the last, no, that's not the last prophet. He was like the first really famous one, priest and prophet. Samuel died. And we know that Samuel had already told Saul, your children are not going to inherit. You're not going to, because you're not a good king, or for whatever his reason. But Samuel died. And now there's no leader for a while. There's no religious, ethical, moral leader. And I wonder if this is significant for David in any way. I don't know. We don't know. But and that's it. It just goes to a new incident. And this is the incident. And then Penina, this shows him that now he's wandering through Israel. Or maybe now it's like, okay, now I'm free. Now I don't have to behave. I don't know what it is, but suddenly he's out extorting people for property and for, things. So, and remember also, we did read that he got that famous sword from Goliath. He has that sword. Remember, he went into one of the priestly sanctuaries and took Goliath's sword. So he has Goliath's sword. He has a following of men. And this part of the story is about when he's kind of a renegade. And he's not even loyal. We're going to see that he goes and fights for the Philistines for a while. However, it seems like he's fighting with the Philistines against the enemies of Israel. He doesn't seem to fight against Israel. But also now, I mean, Saul's still king, but there's no moral compass. There's no leader or whatever. And we go to this new story about, and here is another woman. But we read this last year, but I think we can look at it differently because now we have a different sense of who David was. We were just looking at at Abigail last time. Now we're looking at David and Abigail and who she is and who he is in relation to her. He's already married. He's wandering around. We don't know how long. And now we go to this place in Carmel. Carmel is in Haifa. So again, it's so interesting. Okay, Bonnie, why don't you read? Can you see?
Sure. No, I can see. I got my glasses. I get a shot tomorrow. Now there was a man in Moan whose business was in Carmel, and the man was very rich. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. The name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail. And she was a woman of good understanding and beautiful appearance, but the man was harsh and evil in his doings. He was of the house of Caleb.
Okay, Pina, what does Naval mean?
Naval, it's like from the word nevela, a dead body, somebody who's
Dead
like
body.
already
Dead body?
rotting,
Rotten.
something rotted.
Means rotten.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I'm having trouble moving. Can you move my screen? I'm having trouble moving my screen up to David and Abigail. I don't know what's going on.
Go to the right.
No,
Here. Can you see now? We're here. We're
on 25. Dense. Yeah, I got that.
But we're on verse 4.
Nevela is a smelly body already.
A rotting corpse.
Yep.
A rotting corpse.
No, when I
Okay. Who is reading?
I was reading.
Okay, read a little more.
Okay. When David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep, David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, "Go up to Carmel, go to Nabal, and greet him in my name. And thus you shall say to him who lives in prosperity, peace be to you, peace to your house, and peace to all that you have. Now that I've heard that you have shearers, your shepherds were with us, and we did not hurt them, nor was there anything missing from them all the while they were in Carmel."
Okay, what's he saying?
I'm not sure.
Okay, what's he saying?
He's saying you don't have to worry about us. We've been good. We could have taken from your shepherds, but we didn't.
Yeah, but is there an implied threat there?
Something's there.
There's an implied threat that
Mhm.
I have
They
heard
could
that
if
you
they
have
wanted.
shearers, your shepherds were with us and we did not hurt them, but we could have
Right, and nothing's missing.
from them, but there could have been.
I love this group.
I love the IDF.
Okay.
It's parallel to, I could have killed you, I just cut your robe.
Yeah, but this time it's a little, okay, Pamela, why don't you read? Ask your young men and they will tell you. Go ahead, go from 8.
Okay. Ask your young men and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever comes to your hand, to your servants and to your son David.
Okay, we didn't hurt you, so now it's a holiday, or a feast day. Feed us. Feed
But
us.
he's telling the guy that he's his son. Again, he's using this father figure.
Oh yeah, this father figure is true. Your son David.
Like, okay, it's me, like your son, I'm talking to you.
And you should feed us. We didn't hurt you, so you kind of owe us some food, is what he's saying. Okay, keep going, Pamela.
So when David's young men came, they spoke to Nabal according to all these words in the name of David and waited.
Okay, so
what did they wait for?
They're waiting for a reply. They probably sent sent it to a servant.
Wait. We're talking reconnaissance and hours. We're not.
No, but I
emailing.
think
Got
it's like they went. it's like when you're a very rich man, you talk to the second one, my secretary, my assistant, and then he says, well, let me go into the office and I'll come back to you with a reply. Okay, so just continue a little, Pam, on 10.
Okay, hold on. I gotta move this. Okay. No. Then Nabal answered David's servants and said, who is David and who is the son of Jesse? There are so many servants nowadays who break away each one from his master. Shall I then take my bread and water and my meat that I have killed for my sharers and give it to men I do not know where they are from?
Okay, so basically he said, who the hell are you? No way. Who the hell is this guy to show up, his servant saying, feed us? Because we didn't rob from you, you owe us. So they're kind of like,
Wait, do I have to feed you just because you didn't do a bad thing?
Yes, blackmail. Well, the implication is we still can.
Yeah, but it's sort of like, I didn't steal from you, therefore you have to give me these for free.
Exactly. Like he says, well,
like walk into a store and say, hey, I could have stolen this from you, but that's kind of weird, really.
Yes,
it's like, let's make a deal.
It's totally weird. It's totally like, and okay, so they go home and now we see another side of David. Okay, Lori, why don't you read 12?
Okay, David's young men turned on their heels and went back, and they came and told him all these words. Then David said to his men, every man gird on his sword. So every man girded on his sword, and David also girded on his sword. And about 400 men went with David, and 200 stayed with their supplies.
Okay, so he had 600 men that he was traveling around with.
Yeah.
All right, let's go get it. I mean, so what's happened to David? Oh, I'm nothing. I'm like wicked begets wicked. And, he was quoting Proverbs and all this stuff. And like, what do we think about him now? And what's going on, do we think?
That's amazing. I was listening to Proverbs last night.
Okay, what else do we think? I mean, maybe how long? We don't know how long he was traveling around like this.
Right.
We don't know how long they've been hungry. But they're maybe they're like a private militia going around fighting the Philistines, and they need food, they need sustenance or whatever. I mean, I know in ancient times, even during World War II, armies would come into towns and say to the townspeople, you have to take in our soldiers, you have to give them beds, and you have to feed them. Would happen where the armies would come through and they expect.
That's what the Romans did to Israel.
And the Romans
did to Israel.
The Greeks and the Romans totally did that.
Right.
And they do it. I mean, it's really.
But the difference was when that happened, the people who did that were conquering the people of the land they were usurping, right? But
yes.
This is like marauding soldiers. Nobody knows who David is. He's not supposed to be conquering. They don't know that he's, they're not, it's not, to me, it's not the same thing.
I have a feeling that David had looked at conquered.
The whole history of nations started out with tribes, and when there was famine, they would move from one place to the other. They didn't sit down and settled. They also were busy with trading. That's how they maintained themselves. But mostly they fought each other. And that's why there is many tribes that you don't even see on the face of the earth anymore. I just did a paper today, filled up a word sick, and they said they're talking about a city that actually started out from a tribe of nomads and tribe of merchants and sailors, and they came by boat. So it was a very natural part of this whole being at the time that people moved in tribes. It was also a culture of being a part of a herd to start with, and to shed all this mentality and recognize the ability of mankind to do more than just sheep. It took time. It didn't happen in 1 minute.
Excuse me, Janina, you're right. A lot of people travel by water and boat, and nomads, they're always by the water.
That's right. Okay, so we only have like 2 minutes, but we're going to get into Abigail and David and all the undercurrents of sexual connection between them, because now we know a lot more about David. But now one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, look, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, and he reviled them. But this is interesting. But the men were very good to us, and we were not hurt, nor did we miss anything as long as we accompanied them when we were in the field. Oh, so they were protecting them is what we're getting. They were a wall to us both day and night, all the time we were with them keeping the sheep. So now actually David is saying, or what we're learning is, they didn't just not harm them, they were protecting them while they were out there in the fields. Yeah. They were a wall to us both day and night. So they took care of us. And so David now, so that's another interesting way. It reminds me of like people who, this is worse, but you know, like people would start washing your windshield without you asking and then say, pay me, but they were really hungry or whatever. But David's men said, you know what, we'll protect you, or maybe they needed protecting. We don't really know the situation of what it was. All we know is that the young men. What? Who said what? Anybody say
Doris needed to mute.
Okay. It's just, the question is, and maybe I can find out before next time we meet, was David, you know, actually doing everybody a service and said, we need to be paid for it. Of course, they weren't asked to do the service, but maybe they perceived danger for the shepherds and said, look, these guys are vulnerable. Let's watch them. I don't know.
May I ask a question?
Very interesting. And then
isn't that the mentality of the mafia? Will they give protection, but you pay us?
Yeah, you're right. Maybe they were like a mafia.
Rabbi, may I ask a question about when David wrote, did he write on parchment with wax insignia, seal wax?
Probably.
That's how I write my letters.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. So then, now therefore know and consider what you will do, for harm is determined against our master, against all his household, for he is such a scoundrel that one cannot speak to him. And the scoundrel is not David, but the master. Your husband is such a scoundrel. He's, you know, irrational, and now things are looking bad. The mafia is coming. I love the
oh God.
We need protection, and now pay us.
Oh Lord.
So this is
where are you?
Because the story between David and Abigail had a lot of interesting back and forth and whatever, and we'll look at that next time. So I want to wish you all Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Favorite class. I love learning with you. We have such a good time. I have a great time.
Have a great week.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Love
Happy
you.
New Year, everybody. Happy New Year.
Bye,
I'm
everybody.
putting in for a relocation voucher.
Bye,
We're going to the
everybody.
west
Have a
side.
nice week, everybody.
Yeah.
You
You
too.
too.
Love you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Hannah, are you online still?
Bye, Susan.
Hannah, go.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Merle.
Bye.
Bye, darling. Have a wonderful week.
Good week.
Okay. Mwah. Made my week. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye, dear. That jolly old lady from England, I just love her. Hi, Panita. How are you? Bye.